Hi there. Just a quick programming note to my YouTube subscribers. You may recognize this video as something you've seen before, and it's not your imagination. I had presented this particular video into 4 parts before. These used to be 4 videos, and I put them all together into one for my podcast playlist. So what I'm doing is creating something that you can simply listen to without having to watch everything, and it's a longer form, so you can I don't know, clean your house, do whatever you need to do, but just listen rather than sit and watch the entire thing. You're welcome to watch it, but I thought you might enjoy it in this podcast form. You've heard of the dark night of the soul. You know you're in it, but you're wondering, why is it lasting so long? What I'm going to talk about today are certain things that are contributing to the reason why it's lasting so long. Hi there, beautiful souls. I'm Michèle Duquet. Welcome to my channel, Soulful and Unplugged, a channel about the spiritual awakening journey where I show you how to live a more joyful life by helping you navigate your human journey through your soul's perspective. And this is Roxy. Hopefully she'll stick around for the video, but she may not. It's a self-loving thing to ask for help, and sometimes we do need outside help. The dark night of the soul can be extremely debilitating, and I would encourage you to seek help. And for those of you who aren't quite sure what a dark night of the soul is, it's a time of profound transition in your life where you start to become aware of parts of yourself that are no longer serving you. It's a time of deep transformation where you begin to honor who you are by opening up to your connection to your soul. I have gone through my own dark night of the soul, and I know what I had to go through to get myself to the other side. And I did seek help. I found a beautiful, loving therapist, and I did Gestalt therapy for a couple of years, and it was immensely helpful to carry me through to the rest of my dark night journey. What I want to talk about today is something that's been coming up quite a bit in the comments. And I think it's because a lot of people are having a really hard time during this period of transition globally, and through the chaos and all of the mixed energies that are really bombarding us daily. It's a pretty tough road that we're on. And what is happening is a lot of people are still in the dark night of the soul. They're wondering, why is it lasting so long? Why is it so difficult, so painful? And while, yes, that is the dark night of the soul, what I'm going to talk about today are certain things that are contributing to the reason why it's lasting so long. Okay, so the first thing that's going on during the dark night of the soul is something called ego. That sounds pretty awful. No wonder Roxy left. She goes, oh, she's going to talk about ego death. Let's not hang out for that. Okay, all joking aside, ego death is really torturous because we're born, we develop an identity, we are programmed, we have all this programming from our families and friends and just our environment, and everything that we go through in the first 3-4 years of our life really forms us in a deep, profound way. And our ego gets attached to that. Our ego says, this is who we are. This is who I am. I am this. And then through the dark night of the soul, the reason you go through the dark night of the soul is because you are awakening to your higher self, to your spirit self, to this self that is at the soul level, on another dimension, at the energetic dimension, at the spiritual dimension. And that is in direct conflict with this very pedantic, dense, earthly energy. And your ego will fight and fight and fight to not allow you to expand, because for the precise reason that this will cause your ego to, now I put that in quotation mark because the ego doesn't. The ego is still here because you will still, want to survive on this earth. You're still in a three-dimensional reality, even though you're moving into a fifth dimension and beyond. Your consciousness is expanding wider and wider through this awakening. You're still in a three-dimensional reality where, for example, your instincts of fight or flight have to kick in. You can't sit there and not react when your life is in danger or when you need to act fast. There's, that's still the ego. The ego is there to help you survive this three-dimensional reality. However, the ego starts to become a little bit more like an enemy when it is fighting your expansion. It's fighting you discovering who you really are at the spiritual level, at the soul level. And if we get too locked into our old identity, because it was comfortable, because parts of it was really good, parts of it was really fun, if you're the party girl, or I don't know, you liked owning certain things, and you liked going shopping or being more of a consumer, all these things will go by the wayside as your consciousness expands, because you will cease to have the desire for them in order to have a desire for something that is more fulfilling for you, deeply fulfilling at the soul level. However, the ego will fight that, because there's a moment where you do feel lost, like you're letting go of the old identity and you're not quite sure who the new identity is. And that time of feeling lost, the ego is resisting. And so when our dark night of the soul, it feels like it's lasting a long, long time, it is because at a certain level, we are having a hard time with this ego. It's about really diving into which part of you is still resisting that change in identity, that lack of need for that specific ego in order to form a new type of ego. Not a spiritual ego where, oh, I'm so spiritual, I'm like all that. No, that's not what I'm talking about. That exists, and you'll recognize that pretty instinctively when you're with someone who thinks they're, enlightened and super spiritual. You'll feel there's a certain, I don't know, like they are a little condescending in a way. And I think that instinctively we all know when we're not being spoken to with respect. But this resistance to letting go of the ego has to do with embracing that it's a beautiful thing when you feel lost. I know. That doesn't sound very good, but it is. Understanding at a deep level that when you're starting to feel lost, and you feel lost for a long time, then it is a bridge towards a new you. And the more you fight that, the longer it's gonna last. Embracing it, loving it, understanding that it is a beautiful part of your journey, just as beautiful as any other part. The bliss is no more beautiful than the dark night of the soul. It's all one journey towards your expansion, your own widening of your consciousness. And in the end, it will make being in this three-dimensional reality so much easier and so much more beautiful. The second thing that's going on during the dark night of the soul is that we're facing our own darkness. And one of the things that can happen is that we end up getting sucked by it. It's kind of like a black hole. The energies are revealing in a way that is quite shocking sometimes. We see our own character defects. We see our own flaws and our own 3D programming. And it can be so jarring. We get so stuck in just the vibe of that, the frequency of that, because the frequency can be quite negative, quite shadowy. So that's what's called doing shadow work. You bring the shadows to light. But as the shadows come to light and we see clearly what is going on within our subconscious and what is going on within us, some of it is really negative and dark, and we get stuck looking at it, stuck being in that lower frequency vibration. It's part of it. It is part of the journey. I mean, you do have to go through it and not resist it, for sure. It's not necessarily what our soul wants for this dark night of the soul journey. It's for us to see it clearly and to heal it and clear it through love, through eyes of love, through eyes of forgiveness, through eyes of compassion. If what comes up is the ego criticizing what we discover, judging what we discover, then we do get lost in this shadow, in this darkness. It's about loving us, having compassion for us, finding forgiveness. Yeah, that was pretty dark. That's not so great. But you know what? I will work on forgiving and loving and having compassion and releasing and detaching. That's part of the reason why we go through the dark night of the soul, is to have these moments of discovery, not to get lost in it. So another reason we can stay a long time in the dark night of the soul is that we're resisting letting go of attachments. And attachments can be anything from attachments to who we are, attachments to things, our identity through work, or through who we think we are, attachment to relationships, attachments even to a twin flame, or the idea of a twin flame, or a search for a twin flame. That is an attachment in itself. The best thing we can do for this twin flame journey is to work on ourselves, on healing ourselves, on expanding our consciousness. So it's still about us making it through the dark night of the soul. But if we're too attached to that search for that perfect job or that perfect partner, or how we see how things should be, that's going to keep us in the dark night of the soul. If you listen to yourself talk to either your friends or even to God or the angels, if it's too complaining, if it's all about complaining about the things that you don't have, then you're not in your empowered vibration. Part of the journey of the dark night of the soul and of awakening is to discover that we are incredibly powerful co-creators with the universe, that we are powerful beings, and we can do things for ourselves energetically to bring about the shift that we are seeking. But if we're too attached to our idea of how things should be, that's keeping us in the dark night of the soul. It's really not an easy place to be. It's honesty with oneself. Everyone who's gone through the dark night of the soul has had to face these things, because we're here on earth for that very reason. If we didn't need to go through this, we'd still be in the spiritual realm. We wouldn't be here. And even if we came here for benevolent reasons, even if we came here to help the world, we still need to go through that clearing from the programming, from our childhood, from this natural way that we grow as human beings. The minute our soul enters our body, we are in the physical realm. And therefore, we will go through a certain stage of programming that we will have to unprogram as part of this awakening journey. It's about recognizing how this inner complaint that things aren't the way you want them to be is still reaching for an external fix, whereas the power is within us. And that's part of the journey, discovering that. And if we are still waiting for someone or something or some event or some revelation to shift us, to take us out of this real discomfort, then we're still not recognizing how powerful we are. And as long as we stay in that mindset, the dark night of the soul will last longer. Now, here's the thing. Sometimes we need a little help, and sometimes that's all we need. We need to go on that one-on-one therapy session. There's lots of spiritual therapists. There's lots of people who are very open to the spiritual aspect of what's going on and can help us on a one-on-one go through this. Sometimes that's all we need. Understanding that in this particular moment, I'm not finding my way out of this. Find outside help or a teacher that can teach you how to come back to that place within yourself that is more self-loving, compassionate, self-forgiving, and comprehensive about what's going on with you, with a more gentle, loving touch. Sometimes that's all we need. Because the dark night of the soul is not meant to completely derail us from living on this planet. It is meant to take us from our old self to our new self. But at some point, if it's too tough, if it's too blocked, sometimes you might just need a little help to shift us back onto the rest of that journey to our new self. Faith. Having faith. It's kind of my favorite topic. I spent a lot of time working on my own faith in a higher power, faith in energetic beings, faith in those entities that helped me so much when I was a kid. Every night, when I was a kid for 2 years, from the age of 8 till 10, I would leave my body. I was astrally projecting, traveling, and I would meet up with these beautiful, very loving entities, and they would teach me about all kinds of things, mostly about consciousness, about the different leveled consciousness, about the multiverse, multi-dimensions. It was pretty wild. And I had nobody to talk to. Yeah, it was pretty wild. But it certainly taught me about the importance of having faith. And when I was going through one of my dark night of the souls, I went through a couple, it really reinforced my faith in this spiritual dimension that I was really connected to, deeply connected to. But just because I was highly connected to it and was unable to not feel that connection, it still tested my faith. It still showed me where my faith was. And I really worked on having faith that all was in divine order. All is part of this big divine plan. Having faith that all is well. All is as it is meant to be. Where I am in this present moment is exactly where I am meant to be. Right here, right now. That's in divine planning. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. And that's what I worked on when I was deep in the dark night of the soul. Having faith that this is where you're supposed to be, and having faith that a higher power has your best interest at heart, at soul, and that it is for your ultimate good and the ultimate good of all. That's faith. I've experienced some incredible blessings and miracles just by being open and having faith that this moment is exactly as it is meant to be. How do you know you're exactly where you're supposed to be? It's because that's where you are. That's it. So no matter where you are at right now, if that faith is just needing to be worked on, work on that faith. Work on the faith that you're exactly where you're meant to be at this moment for your divine purpose. Now, it may be that this very moment takes you to a place where you get out of your comfort zone and look for a spiritual teacher or look for a therapist. That's part of the perfection of this present moment. It can be anything. It's infinite. The reasons why we are in this present moment, acceptance of it, and having faith that it is for your divine good, for your soul's good, that will naturally just give you that spark that will help you shift all the way to who you are meant to be, part of the journey. And if that faith is low, work on that, because it may be what is keeping you stuck in the dark night of the soul. And if you can't do it, imagine what it will feel like to have complete faith in a higher power that has your best interest at heart. What is that like? Act as if. Spend one day acting as if you have complete and total faith that everything that is happening to you is for an ultimate divine good that will only be discovered later on. Just spend one day doing that, and you'll see it's gonna shift you in a big, big way. And if it doesn't, do it for a second day. And if that doesn't work, do it for a third day. I don't mean to make light of it. I know how difficult this journey is, and I know how difficult this stage is. But if you believe in a spiritual world, if you believe in a higher power, if you believe in your own soul, it will carry you out of the being stuck part of the dark night of the soul. So now we get into the part about how you can help yourself in this very difficult place where you feel stuck, where you feel it's been such a long time and it's too long, and you're feeling like it's enough. Gotta begin a movement. And it really boils down to what I talked about, this present moment, accepting this present moment, and having faith that it's exactly where you are meant to be. The vital thing about that is finding a loving space for yourself, unconditionally loving space for yourself. You can ask help from the energetic beings, from angels, from God, or from a higher power. You can simply ask, please help me find that loving space within myself, that I can be accepting and embracing of this present moment, of what is really going on right now. Or ask for that thought that will let you know what is your next right step. It could be the next right step is to do a research as to finding a wonderful spiritual teacher, or making that phone call, or writing down in a journal what's really going on within you. You will get an intuition. You will get an inner knowing of what it is that you are meant to do that is going to be the most helpful for you to carry you through this very difficult feeling of being stuck. I talked about faith in, the whole last section was about faith. Well, part of faith is having a higher power that you really trust, that you really love. You can imagine any kind of higher power. You can imagine a benevolent being in any way that you need to, and then pray to that higher being, pray to that benevolent entity that you have created very, very, very specifically just for you. What do you need? What kind of a being or a God or a angel do you need for you to feel that unconditional self-acceptance, that unconditional self-love, or that you can actually have faith in and believe in and reach to if you're lacking hope? Hope is an incredibly powerful thing. And sometimes when we are in this very dark place, all we need is that tiniest spark of hope to carry us through. Meditate first thing in the morning. That is the absolute best time to meditate. And in that meditation, put some lovely music on that helps you feel good. Imagine beautiful settings where you're at your most relaxed, at your most loved. Imagine a transformed you. See what it is that you are right now and see how you can love and accept exactly where you are right now. But then also see who you are becoming and imagine who that person is, what you're like as that person. Imagine yourself doing things, talking to people, interacting with other souls, and get that feeling in yourself of the hope that that brings you. That's a huge, huge helpful thing to actually meditate first thing in the morning. Before you even get out of bed, you wake up, sit up straight, maybe on your iPhone or iPad, put some really nice meditative music and begin to count down from 10 to 1, telling yourself that you are going deeper and deeper. And when you get to 1, start imagining your better life. Start imagining your true self, even if it's that you're having a hard time having faith or praying. Imagine yourself praying to a benevolent being that you trust. Stay there for as long as you need to, but just as you are preparing to come out of it, then count from 1 up to 10, and at 10 tell yourself that you will be fully awake, feeling wonderful, ready to greet the day, and feeling better than before. Those are just a few of the things that have really helped me. Doing that morning meditation is what has really transformed not only me, my whole life, and all of my relationships, just through my own personal shift, through the oneness that we have, through the oneness that is the true energy of the universe. By me shifting, I am assisting the energies to shift in the entire universe. So that can really be an inspiration for you as well. Know that as you shift, you are elevating and shifting the energies of the entire universe through this oneness, infinite energy that is throughout the entire universe. All right, my beautiful souls, I hope this has helped you a little bit. I really hope from the bottom of my heart that this offered some help to you in some way, and even a spark of hope. Mwah! Sending lots and lots and lots of love. Bye for now.